Hi, everyone. This is the second iteration in a somewhat new monthly full moon herbal chat. So every month, I'm hosting a new free herbal chat on different aspects of herbalism, different health and wellness conditions, and how herbs can support them, and they're usually on or around the full moon. So this one is on Sunday, April 13th, and we're talking about herbs for deep sleep and restful nights. You can find the list of all the topics and dates on my website, brujanaturalofferings.com. And you can also find links on how to join. So you can add the calendar invites directly into your calendar if you're interested in individual sessions, or the link to the full calendar if you just want to follow along. These will also be sent out on my newsletter and eventually will be available as a live library resource on my website. So today it's just me. So I'm just going to go through the content that we have today. You're always welcome to reach out to me if you have any specific questions. And my email is brujanaturalofferings@gmail.com. So as I mentioned, today we're talking about herbs for deep sleep and restful nights. Before we dive into it, I'll just give a little bit of an introduction about myself. If you have seen other videos, you're welcome to just skip through this because it's kind of the same intro every single time. My name is Natasha. You can also call me Nosh. I'm the founder of Bruja Natural Offerings. I'm an herbalist, a clinical herbalist, a medicine maker, and passionate advocate of playing in the woods. And thank you for joining me today. This would have been more relevant if there had been other people in the room, so I'm just going to go ahead and skip over it. And today's agenda. So we're going to ground ourselves in the importance of sleep. And in this section, we'll kind of talk about what happens when we're sleeping. And we'll talk about why sleep matters, along with a few common sleep disturbances. Again, if you have very specific sleep issues, please reach out to me directly, and I'd be happy to either work with you one-on-one or have an informal chat. Then we're going to dive into some herbal allies for deep rest and kind of talk about a bonus herb, mugwort, which isn't necessarily related to deep rest, but is an herb that I love and have had a long relationship with and just wanted to throw in there because it has to do with sleep or with dreams. Yeah. Then we won't really have Q&A, and then we'll have a little closing. So let's go first into the importance of sleep. So, achieving a state of deep sleep, and again, I'm not a sleep expert, so a lot of this is kind of like surface level introductory, but achieving a state of deep sleep is really important for physical, mental, and emotional health. And it's really hard to get there if we're always waking up, whether that means because we live with someone who maybe snores or moves around in the bed a lot and is constantly waking you up, or if you have to pee, or whatever the reason might be. If you're waking up multiple times at night, you're not really getting into that deep sleep. And it's so important because reaching that area of deep sleep is important for physical restoration, cognitive function, and emotional balance. So starting first with physical health and restoration. So when you reach this point of deep sleep, this is when the body heals, like physically heals and regenerates. So what happens at this stage is that there's cellular repair and growth. So whatever you've done throughout the day, whether you were working out or just using your body and muscles, at this point in the sleep cycle, your body repairs muscles, tissues, and bones, which is just, it's not even if you're just working out, it's just healing and regenerating your body from daily wear and tear. This is also a time when your body is boosting the immune system. So during this time, deep sleep time, the body produces immune cells and cytokines or cytokines, I never know how to pronounce it, which help fight infections and inflammation. It's also a time for hormonal balance. So when you are deeply resting, deeply sleeping, growth hormone is released, and this helps in muscle growth, in metabolism regulation, and in overall health. And finally, when you are in deep sleep, your body is restoring its energy. So I'm not sure if you guys have heard about ATP or mitochondria. I think it's very popular in the health and wellness field these days. ATP is basically the cellular energy for the body or what the cells run on. And it's extremely important for basically existing, living, and functioning. So ATP is extremely important for us. And during deep sleep, ATP is replenished, and this helps us feel ready and able to meet the day physically when you wake up in the morning. Um, in terms of mental health and cognitive function, deep sleep is extremely essential for memory consolidation and brain detoxification. So, when we're in this state of deep sleep, we are processing memory. So, information that is learned or taken in throughout the day is processed in this deep sleep mode. And this can help us with long-term retention and problem-solving skills. This is also an opportunity for our brain to detoxify. So, the brain, just as other aspects of the body, when you're in that mode of deep sleep, your body is detoxifying. So, just as your body is detoxifying, so is your brain. And at this point in sleep, your brain is clearing out toxins. A very specific example of that is beta amyloid plaques, which can be linked to Alzheimer's. And yeah, so basically, it's an opportunity for our brain to detoxify themselves. There's also some evidence that people who get quality deep sleep can perform better in tasks that require critical thinking and creativity. And the way I've kind of seen this in myself is I'm someone who usually needs a fair amount of hours of sleep. So at least 7, although that is a little bit low for me. So ideally 8 to 9 hours. I'm a sleeper. Um, and if you've ever, like, if you're used to a certain number of hours of sleep, if you've ever felt that you've gotten less than that, the next day you might just feel a bit like brain foggy or as if like if like if someone's talking to you about something complex and your eyes just kind of glaze over. That's kind of the example that I've seen in myself. um yeah, so that's that. um in terms of mental health and cognitive function, so this is kind of a slightly, or sorry, excuse me, emotional well-being and stress reduction. Deep sleep is also critically important for our overall emotional well-being. Um, and this is kind of on a physiological level, and also, when you sleep better, you feel better generally. Um, and so, what happens to make that true is that when we're in this state of deep sleep, we are regulating our stress hormones. So, deep sleep can help lower cortisol and increase serotonin, which can further help us with relaxation, both when we're asleep and when we're awake. Deep sleep also reduces anxiety and depression. So, I'm sure you are all aware a lack of deep sleep is linked to mood issues such as depression or anxiety. And I'm sure you may have experienced that as well, whether you experience anxiety and depression or not, when you've had like a shorter amount of sleep or when you haven't slept well, whether it's one day or multiple days. Sometimes you can be quicker to temper. And that's because on a physiological level, you're not able to reach that point of lowering cortisol. Um, and then, kind of linked to the memory, deep sleep is also really important in emotional processing. So, the brain is what processes emotional experiences. And when you are in a point of deep sleep, your brain is just like it's processing what happened to you that day. It's also processing the emotional experiences that you've had. So, it can help you process those and respond with a little bit more emotional stability the next day. So, essentially, we've talked about all the importances of reaching that deep sleep and deep restfulness state. When sleep is disrupted, it can lead to a lot of different things. And again, we're not going to focus so much on all the bad, because this isn't a workshop or a discussion to really like fearmonger or to stress you out even more. I think my approach to herbalism, whether it's one of these public discussions or it's a private one-on-one, I really want to work with where you're at and support you with where you're at and not approach it from like a fear-mongering place where it's like, these are the things that could happen if you don't do this, because I think that cannot be as effective, at least in my experience, can be a less effective way of supporting someone to make long-term changes and to reach their health and wellness goals. But I'll briefly mention it here just so it's on the record. Some of the consequences of poor deep sleep are increased risk of chronic illnesses, so including heart disease and diabetes, a weakened immune system, which can lead to frequent infections and chronic inflammation, poor concentration, brain fog, and memory issues, and then higher levels of stress, anxiety, and mood swings. And really, the bottom line of these consequences that I just shared is that deep sleep is just, it's so important for regulating yourself, regulating your physical being, your emotional being, your spiritual being. And I think it can be something that is undervalued and underrated. And I've seen it in myself and in people in my community, people that I love, that we can get away so much with not valuing our sleep, and then it catches up to us eventually. So this is why I'm an advocate, not only because I'm a sleeper myself, but I'm such an advocate for sleep because, yeah, it's just one of those things that will catch up to you. All right. So now we are going to chat a little bit about how to improve deep sleep. So these are a few more behavioral lifestyle things, and then we will kind of get into the herbs a little bit later. Um, and these are things that may be easier or more challenging for individuals to adopt. And so this is where I love to work with people one-on-one because yeah, everyone is different. Everyone is unique. Everyone has a different relationship with sleep, stress, anxiety, all these things. So anyway, here's a few tips, tricks, things that you can try if you are struggling with sleep. One is to stick to a consistent sleep schedule. So going to bed and waking up roughly around the same time every day. I think our bodies do like routine. And so implementing that kind of routine can help train our bodies to be like, okay, this is resting time. Just as you may have a routine around eating and your body eventually like gets hungry around those times. So if you come from not really having a routine around eating, if you have gone through that process of being like, okay, I'm going to eat at these times, you'll notice that your body over time will actually indicate through growling or whatever that they are hungry around those times. And it's a very similar thing with sleep. Another really important thing for us nowadays, especially, is to reduce screen time before bed. So it's all over. This is probably a review for a lot of you, but the blue light that is emitted through our devices disrupts melatonin production specifically. So even lying in bed and sitting on the computer or sitting on your phone can not be ideal because you're disrupting that melatonin production. And so rather than sitting on a screen right before bed, if you do some gentle stretching or maybe read a book or even listen to an audiobook or a podcast, that way your phone is to the side and you're not actually staring at it, you're just listening to it. I also love creating a relaxing bedtime routine. I get this isn't always available to everyone, kind of depending on your living situation. But a few things that I love to incorporate especially if I'm feeling kind of wired and having trouble falling asleep, are like drinking a cup of herbal tea, which again, if you're waking up a lot to go pee, that might not be the best one for you. But you can also do some meditation. I like to do some qigong, some reading. And yeah, just generally like signaling to my body and my brain that it is time to relax, time to chill. Um, Also optimizing your sleep environments. This is the final one that we'll talk about, and that means, if you live somewhere where there's a lot of light pollution, getting some curtains or some blinds, making sure as much as possible that you're in a quiet environment, that the temperature is right for you. And again, some of these may or may not be as accessible as others. And so these are all just kind of ideas, thoughts, options, and you can take what you want and leave what you don't want. So yeah, let me just navigate back to my notes here. Okay, great. So now we're going to get into some common sleep disturbances. Uh, Anyone who is watching this, you may have experienced some of these. You may have experienced something separate. Again, if any of these don't apply to you and you want to learn more about your specific case, please get in touch with me. I would love to chat with you. Um, so stress um, is deeply linked with sleep disturbances. So the reason why I'm kind of going to talk about like why this happens, and then I'll like mention a few herbs that could be supportive for specific relationships with sleep. So the relationship between stress and sleep. Stress activates the sympathetic nervous system. So this is the fight or flight mode. And this means that the brain is alert when it should be winding down. So you may have had this experience if something happened to you at the end of your day and you're a little bit stressed about it. Um, and your mind is racing, you're just thinking about it, your heart may be beating, your stomach may be upset, and that's really not conducive for falling asleep because you're basically telling your body that you either need to fight something or you need to run away, um, which is basically the opposite of getting into rest. On a cellular level, the elevated levels of cortisol delay melatonin production, and this makes it harder to fall and to stay asleep. So, cortisol, as you may know, is one of the stress hormones. And so, when we are in this fight or flight mode, we are producing cortisol and it's elevated in our bodies. And not only does that make us feel stressed, feel anxious, but it delays that melatonin production. So, even further preventing you from falling asleep. If any of you have experienced racing thoughts or tension, this can physically also prevent our body from relaxing. And I don't know if you've ever had that, whether you're trying to fall asleep or just in general stress, like you notice your shoulders creep up. And when you take a deep breath and you let it go, you're like, whoa, I was holding so much tension in my body. Happens to me a lot. Um, okay, so some herbs that are specifically for or can be helpful in specifically stress related sleep issues are skullcap. So, this is a gentle nervine, which is a fancy word for an herb that speaks to the nervous system that can calm an overactive mind and reduce nervous tension, so that physical tension. Um, and this can be particularly supportive for those who find restlessness when they're trying to fall asleep, and particularly when it's stress induced. So, if you're ever one of those people, or you're with someone, or sleeping next to someone, or in the same room as someone who is constantly moving, wrestling around, skullcap might be supportive for them. Lemon balm can ease anxiety and promote relaxation, and this could make it easier to transition to sleep. Lemon balm is an extremely cooling herb. So if you tend to run cold, this may not be the best herb for you. And just a little plug here, some of you who have attended some of my talks or are familiar with working with me one-on-one or even through my website, when I mention words like cooling, warming, drying, moistening, I am trained in Western herbalism, and Western herbalism kind of categorizes bodies, so whether they're human bodies, plant bodies, animal bodies, through this system of energetics. And so energetics are hot, cold, wet, dry. There's a few others that are just beyond the scope here. But the theory is just simply that every body, so every human, every plant, every being, has a unique combination of these energetics. And the way that I work with people one-on-one is I try to understand the person that I'm working with. I try to understand their unique constitution. And then I try to work with herbs that support that constitution. So if someone I'm working with is hot, I'm not going to recommend an herb that is hot because then that could make them more hot and aggravate the issue. I would instead want to introduce an herb that is cooling. Now that's very simplified, and it is a bit more complex than that, but just for the purposes of this chat, that's what I mean when I say those things. Okay, getting back to herbs for stress-related sleep issues. Ashwagandha. So ashwagandha is really great. I work with ashwagandha a lot, both myself and with my clients. This is an adaptogen, which I'll get into that term in a minute, but it's an adaptogen that regulates cortisol levels, reduces stress, and can improve sleep quality over time. So, adaptogens are really, really cool herbs because um, the way that adaptogens work with the body is that they bring your body back into balance. So it's not like for example, if you want more energy, you might drink coffee or green tea or black tea, and that will stimulate you and give you that energy. The way that adaptogens work is that if you're already stimulated or if you're overstimulated, it will actually soothe. And then if you are understimulated or underfunctioning, it will stimulate. So it's trying to bring you into balance. And so when you work with adaptogens, it's not like it basically they work with your specific situation and bring you into balance. Um, you have to be careful because there's a lot, like adaptogens are kind of the sweetheart of health and wellness supplements right now. And you have to be careful because there are true adaptogens, and there are herbs that people are trying to label and market as adaptogens. There's a few that's kind of beyond the scope of today's course, but basically one of the main indications of whether an herb is an adaptogen or not is whether they bring the body into balance, meaning they either stimulate or soothe, depending on your situation. And if they don't do that, then they're probably not an actual adaptogen. Okay, so the second one that we'll talk about is insomnia. So that's defined here as difficulty falling or staying asleep. So insomnia can affect sleep. It's, as we talked about, it's trouble falling asleep. And so this is onset insomnia or waking up frequently, which is maintenance insomnia. And this can be triggered. So this is where it kind of gets, everyone is a little bit unique because it can be triggered by a lot of different things. So it can be triggered by anxiety, hormonal imbalances, or even chronic stress. It can even be environmental. So some of the things that we talked about before, if you are sharing space with someone who snores or is wrestling around. So yeah, over time, this can lead to fatigue, mood instability, and impaired cognitive function. So there's a few herbs that I'll share here. Again, it kind of depends on your specific situation. So for example, if it's like hormonal, like um, if I were working with someone who was perimenopausal, menopausal, they might be experiencing insomnia because of the wild roller coaster that their hormones are on at that time. And so I might, instead of a general sleep herb, I might look at their hormones and work with herbs that could support the regulation of their hormones. Whereas if someone was experiencing insomnia because of anxiety, then as we spoke about before, I would recommend herbs that are speaking directly to the nervous system and addressing that underlying anxiety. But we will talk about a few herbs here. The first one is valerian root. So this is considered a sedative herb. So it actually acts as a sedative in your body. And this can promote deep sleep and reduce anxiety-related insomnia. So valerian is specifically supportive for folks who are experiencing insomnia due to anxiety. Passion flower is another great one, and is specifically great for calming a racing mind. So if you or someone that you know is a chronic overthinker, especially at night, passion flower could be an ally for you. Hops is also really great. They are also a sedative and they can improve sleep duration. So hops is really great for those folks who are experiencing maintenance insomnia. So for those of you who may have no trouble getting to sleep, but who wake up in the middle of the night, or multiple times a night, and they're also really great for the physical, like restlessness. If you have physical pain, tension that wakes you up at night, hops can be really supportive for you. Um, okay, moving on. We're going to talk about restlessness, restlessness and waking at night. So frequent waking up during the night can lead to fragmented and poor quality sleep. It may also mean that you're never actually reaching that deep sleep state because for whatever reason, you may just be waking up at different points in the sleep cycle. This could be caused by stress, pain, or even an overactive nervous system. And yeah, it just keeps you out of that deep sleep mode, which means, as we talked about at the beginning, you're not getting into that rest, restoration, detoxification phase of sleep. There's a few herbs that can be supportive here. So lavender, I love lavender. They're so supportive in so many ways. But this is a relaxing herb that soothes the nervous system and can improve sleep stability. So lavender you can work with as a tea, you can work with as aromatherapy, even like spraying your pillow, spraying your room before you go to bed, or like a lavender eye pillow can be really supportive. Chamomile is a gentle sedative that reduces nervous tension and promotes a sense of calm. So if you are experiencing some of that tension, you're having a trouble like relaxing your body at night, or you're waking up with like tightness and like tension in the body, chamomile could be supportive for you. And California poppy is great as well. They're a mild sedative, and can also often be supportive when you experience frequent night waking, or if you're a light sleeper. California poppy can be supportive in that way. Um, okay, let me go back here and let's see. Think. Oh, okay. This is something that I wanted to touch on as well. So this is getting a little bit deeper. But what's really cool is actually, let me see. I think I have specific notes here too. Okay. So we're gonna spend a little bit of time here talking about specifically the nervous system and sleep, because they are intrinsically linked. As we talked about before, like you could be experiencing sleep issues because of physical pain, um, or environmental issues, but a lot of sleep issues are related to nervous system imbalances. And specifically, we're going to talk about a few neurotransmitters and their role in sleeps, because I think it's like super fascinating. Um, And also, as you may have mentioned in what we talked about before, like a lot of the sleep enhancing herbs work by interacting with the nervous system, either by calming overactivity, reducing stress hormones, or supporting neurotransmitter functions. So, when we're talking about the nervous system and sleep regulation, so the nervous system, this is kind of like a quick intro. The nervous system consists of two main branches. So there's the sympathetic nervous system, which is fight or flight, and this activates during moments of stress, anxiety, or stimulation. And what you experience in the body, or can experience in the body, is elevated heart rate, blood pressure, and increased alertness. Um, if it's overactive, or if you're experiencing chronic like stress, this can prevent relaxation and deep sleep. Then there's the parasympathetic nervous system, and this is rest and digest. So this activates when the body is calm and promotes relaxation. What you may experience is a slower heart rate, lower blood pressure, and there's essentially a signal to the body to rest. And this supports deep sleep and overall nervous system recovery. Sleep supporting herbs can help shift the body from a sympathetic nervous system dominance or stress mode situation into a parasympathetic nervous system or activation or relaxation mode, which can lead to better sleep. So there's a few different categories of herbs that speak to the nervous system and can help in that transition from the fight or flight to the rest and digest. Um, the first one we'll talk about here are nervines, and these are herbs that calm and nourish the nervous system. So nervine herbs work by gently supporting the parasympathetic nervous system, helping to calm an overactive mind and body. So we've talked about skullcap, lemon balm, chamomile. Um, and how they specifically work is a lot of nervines contain active compounds that balance neurotransmitters like GABA and serotonin, which promote calmness and reducing stress. So a lot of these terms are a little bit heady. It's a little bit beyond the scope to go into each and every single one of these terms. But I just wanted to introduce them here because neurotransmitters, I find them super fascinating, and specifically like how different herbs can support or address or interact with these neurotransmitters. And this table here is just to summarize what I'm talking about here. So the second category we'll talk about are sedatives. And sedative herbs are stronger than nervines, and these directly enhance sleepiness by slowing down the nervous system activity. So where nervines aren't necessarily making your nervous system slow down, making you feel sleepy, sedatives can actually do that. We've spoken about valerian, hops, passion flower. Those are all examples of sedative herbs. And these herbs often affect GABA receptors, so similar to how your pharmaceutical or prescription sedatives work, but using natural herbs. And this makes it easier to fall and stay asleep. So basically, these sedatives work by influencing the GABA receptors in some way so that they're actually reducing brain activity, helping you to slow down and to fully relax. The final group of herbs that we'll talk about are adaptogens. And we kind of spoke about them a little bit before, but these are herbs that balance stress and cortisol. So adaptogenic herbs help the body adapt to stress, reducing cortisol levels that can interfere with sleep. So we've talked about ashwagandha. There's also Tulsi basil, which reduces stress-induced insomnia, and reishi mushroom, which supports relaxation and deep sleep. So the way that adaptogens work is um, as we talked about before, they bring things into balance. So they modulate the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, also called the HPA axis, which regulates stress and sleep cycles. So all these herbs are affecting neurotransmitters or pathways in the body that can be activated, overstimulated when it comes to stress and anxiety. Um, Anything else I want to say about that? So a lot of these herbs, specifically the ones that maybe speak a little bit more gently to the nervous system, um, are best when you work with them consistently over time. So, for example, if you build a ritual around drinking chamomile tea before you go to bed, or you take ashwagandha capsules right before you go to bed, because especially in our modern society and modern way of living, our nervous system is constantly activated. Like we are either working in stressful jobs, have a family that depends on us, commuting, dealing with traffic, like all the little stressors that we deal with, not to mention like being on the phone, social media, the dopamine hit, and like the comparing or whatever. Like there's just so many different ways that our nervous system is constantly activated. And so really working with these nervines, working with these adaptogens, working with these sedatives over a longer period of time can help teach our nervous system that it's okay. And it's like that you don't always have to be activated, especially when you're trying to go to sleep, and especially when you're trying to go to sleep and help your body to have those normal recovery periods. Um, Great. Let me navigate back here in my notes. Um, Great. Let's see. Okay. So now we are going to do a deeper dive into some of these herbs. So we've already kind of mentioned valerian, skullcap, and lavender. We're going to do a little bit of a deeper dive into each of those. And then the final little bonus one that we're going to talk about is mugwort, which is one of my favorites, and we'll get there in a minute. So valerian. This is the flower of valerian because it's one of the easiest ways to identify them. But what we work with is the root of valerian, and kind of circling back to the energetics that I dropped in a little while ago. Valerian root is warm, dry, pungent, slightly bitter. In the body, they are a strong sedative nervine. So they both speak to the nervous system and help sedate our bodies and minds. And so it directly calms the nervous system and promotes sleep. So they work by enhancing GABA activity, and GABA is the neurotransmitter responsible for reducing brain activity and anxiety. So this can be supportive for sleep onset. So if you have trouble falling asleep, valerian can help you fall asleep and can ease restlessness and reduce nervous tension. So if you're someone who has trouble falling asleep, maybe due to some kind of tightness in the body, some kind of tension or anxiety, and you may be one of those people who moves around a lot, trying to find a comfortable position, valerian root can be supportive for you. You can work with valerian root as a tea, tincture, or a capsule. Tinctures can be particularly effective because valerian's active compounds extract well in alcohol. Yeah, So that is valerian root. Skullcap. So skullcap is cool, dry, and slightly bitter. They are a gentle nervine tonic. So, what a tonic means is it's an herb that you can take in small doses over a long period of time, and they really speak to the whole nervous system. They tonify, they relax. Yeah, they're just a really gentle herb that can support the whole nervous system. And specifically when it comes to nervous tension, stress related restlessness, and an overactive mind. So, this one is particularly supportive for the racing thoughts and the tightness in the body. This plant, skullcap, works by nourishing and relaxing the nervous system and reduces muscle tension and mild spasms. So this herb, it's kind of great because they work on both the mental components of falling asleep and the physical components of falling asleep. So yeah, if you're experiencing, like I said before, racing thoughts, skullcap can be really supportive for you. If you're experiencing any kind of tension related to stress or anxiety, or even some kind of pain, whether you're recovering from something, you have chronic pain, anything like that, just pain in the body, skullcap can also be supportive for you. Kind of as a side note, skullcap, because they're also a bitter, is really great for folks who experience stress-related digestive issues. So yeah, skullcap kind of straddles, I mean, all herbs kind of straddle a whole bunch of different things, but kind of focusing on sleep is where we are today. So this one is most commonly used as a tea, tincture, or a capsule. And skullcap can be particularly helpful with or in combination with chamomile or passion flower. Lavender. So lavender is cool, dry, and aromatic. They also, if you make a tea and steep it for a really long time, they can also be a bitter. Lavender is a gentle nervine and relaxant with aromatic volatile oils that help soothe the nervous system, ease tension headaches, and promote emotional balance. The smell of lavender, I'm sure many of you have smelled lavender, can actually lower cortisol levels. So it's great for aromatherapy type situations, and is great for stress related sleep disturbances. Lavender also has mild antispasmodic properties, which is just a fancy word for saying for soothing muscle spasms. So if you kind of have muscle tension, for example, like if anyone watching is someone who menstruates and you get cramps, that is basically the cramps are your muscles spasming. So lavender can help soothe those muscles so they don't spasm as intensely. So this is great for someone who may be experiencing sleep disturbances due to physical discomfort. You can work with lavender as a tea, as a spray, so aromatherapy, herbal pillows, baths, essential oils. Lavender is very versatile. Versatile. Anyway, whatever, however you pronounce it. Okay, so I like to, in a lot of my talks, I like to introduce, as we've talked about, the idea of constitutions and energetics, because really, I think where people can get into trouble and where I've found some disbelief around herbal support is someone may not have an understanding of energetics or constitutions, and they just read a whole bunch of stuff about herbs or are recommended an herb from someone who may not be experienced in these things as well, and it actually makes the problem worse. And there may be a lot of reasons for that, and one of the reasons is maybe they were cold and someone recommended to them an herb that was cold, and rather than helping them sleep, it actually increased tension in the body because they were making themselves even more cold and even more uncomfortable. So these are just little recipes for sleepy time teas for different constitutions. So again, this is very simplistic, and there's a combination of warm, hot, warm, wait, hot, dry, wet, and cold. But here we're just talking about hot and cold. So we will talk first about the warming sleep tea. So the warming sleep tea is specifically for people who have cold constitutions. or people who run cold. And so the herbs that are in this are meant to gently warm them so that they're not making their body colder and risking introducing more tension, more discomfort in the body. So this would be 1 part valerian, 1 part skullcap, 1 part cinnamon, 1 part chamomile, half a part ginger, and half a part licorice. Um, and so you would just brew a combination of this and then drink it before bed. This is great for folks who are cold, sluggish, or depleted, folks who often feel chilly, fatigued, and or have slow digestion. And this formula is a warming and grounding formula that can help promote relaxation without increasing cold and dampness in the body. Um, mm, mm. And so, how this works in the body is it's going to be gently sedative, grounding, and warming. This formula supports relaxation, circulation, and digestion. So, it's perfect for people who can feel cold and sluggish at night. So, let's say, like, you've had your final meal, and maybe you feel still kind of full or bloated at around bedtime, depending on when you ate. Maybe you even feel cold after you eat. This is the tea for you. The next tea we'll talk about here is the cooling sleep tea. And this is for people who are hot or have hot constitutions. And so this cooling sleep tea is best for hot, restless, or overheated individuals, people who feel warm or hot at night, people who experience night sweats or have an overactive mind. And this is a cooling and soothing tea to calm heat, inflammation, and excessive mental activity. So it would include skullcap, lemon balm, lavender, passion flower, peppermint, and hibiscus. So the way that this formula would work in the body is to calm the body, relieve stress, and to cool the body. So it's ideal for people who run hot, who feel restless at night, or who experience inflammation. So that's how you can kind of work with these herbs to support people's underlying constitutions. And yes, that's all I want to say about that. So again, this is a little interactive thing if there had been people joining me today, which there aren't, so we'll just skip over this. Mugwort. So mugwort is the bonus herb. I absolutely love mugwort. This is mugwort, a photo of mugwort that you would find in the UK. There's also California mugwort, which was my first introduction to this herb, this family of herbs. And I absolutely love mugwort. This is a slightly different direction from promoting deep sleep and restfulness. Um, I love mugwort. I love the smell of mugwort. I also have a lot of experience doing like fire by friction or um, building fires from materials that have been foraged on the land. And mugwort is a fantastic coal bundle. So if you have a coal, you can put it into mugwort and it will, I can't remember the word, but it'll just kind of nurture that coal and you can then build a fire from that. And they also smell delicious when they're burning. They're also amazing for enhancing dreams, vividness. Some people have even worked with mugwort to experience lucid dreaming. And I want to go a little bit before we kind of run through this. I wanted to go into a little bit of how that works. So, mugwort activates the subconscious. So they're known to kind of like confuse the brain or lessen the distinction between waking and dreaming, and can support deeper recall, promote vivid imagery, and can induce lucid or even, yeah, lucid dreams. Um, they can enhance intuition by attuning the mind to subtle messages and inner guidance, particularly supportive for folks who are practicing dream journaling or dream work. And the way on kind of like a cellular level, how this works, um, is that mugwort contains compounds like thujone, which is a psychoactive component that can also be found in wormwood, which is used in absinthe. and it's known to affect the GABA system in the brain, potentially altering, excuse me, altering perception and mental states. There's also camphor in mugwort, which can stimulate the brain and potentially lead to vivid dreams or restlessness. And they also contain essential oils and flavonoids, which can contribute to a relaxation or mental stimulation depending on the dose and method of use. So, um, when I've worked with mugwort, some people are so sensitive that you can just have the leaves in your pillow or on your bedside table, and that can kind of like, even in of itself, increase the vividness of your dreams. You can work with them as a tea. You can put them in a smoking blend. There's lots of different ways that you can work with this plant. Um, in terms of the energetics, they are warming and drying. They are also a nervine, but as we kind of spoke about, they can either relax or stimulate the mind. They're also a digestive stimulant, so they will stimulate digestion. They're an emmenagogue, which is kind of outside the scope of this session, but essentially what that means is they can stimulate menstrual flow. So if anyone has experienced any kind of stagnation with menstruation, this could be an ally for you. They're carminative, antimicrobial, and mild psychoactive. Um, so yeah, I love mugwort. There are some indigenous folks who have their own relationship with mugwort. So when you are entering into relationship with mugwort, I would urge you to build your own relationship rather than to uh, research what is out there. I mean, you can still research what is out there, but don't co-opt what may be specific or heritage knowledge to further your relationship with this herb. I think that's everything I want to say about mugwort. Let's see. Q&A. Okay, so we will skip this part. Let me just move forward. Although what I will say here is if you do have any questions, thoughts, concerns, please reach out to me. My email is brujanaturalofferings at gmail.com. And I really honestly welcome any kind of feedback as well. So if there's anything um, in this recording that didn't sit well with you, or that you have other thoughts on, or that I was even wrong about, please let me know. Because I really thrive in the hive mind type situation, and I think we learn more in a collective. And this is definitely not meant to be a person holding knowledge, sharing that knowledge. That is what it is, but it's also about just, yeah, it's just about creating a collective knowledge that people can learn from and benefit from. So, questions, concerns, feedback, please reach out to me. Moral of that story. We will also skip this. And I'll just pause here for announcements. So, as I mentioned at the beginning, this is a monthly series. So, around the full moon every month. The next discussion is in May, and it's on women's wellness, hormonal balance, and herbal support. And that women well, I guess the audience is mostly, or the talk is mostly around folks who menstruate. Um, but anyone who defines themselves, or not but, and anyone who defines himself as a woman is welcome. Just know that we will be focusing on what happens in the body around menstruation and the biophysical, physiological aspects that surround menstruation. And so this is on Monday, May 12th, 2025. And there is my email if you are interested. And my website is just brujanaturalofferings.com. I think the final thing I'll say is these are offered free of charge, and I humbly accept with gratitude any donations that you feel called to share when you view this video.